Streaming from Oklahoma's own digital studio, this is OSU Football Update, brought to you by Braums.
Hey everyone, and welcome into an emergency podcast here on Oklahoma's Own Sports. Obviously, we got a lot to talk about with Oklahoma State, so let's not mess around. We'll get right to it. Shouts out, as always, to our sponsor at Braums. Heard Robert talking about the crinkle-cut fries. Chris and Toby were talking about the Braums sauce the other day, which is a favorite within our household as well. And again, if anyone at Braums is watching, I love the pistachio almond ice cream. It's my favorite. Does that make me an old man, John? Maybe it does. That's not quite as bad as, say, like cherries, cream, and pecan, which I always, as a kid, associated with like, oh, that would be what my grandma gets. But I love me some pistachio ice cream.
I think you might have crossed that Rubicon if you'd said Neapolitan.
There's a line of demarcation that I probably jumped across. Okay, so the reason that we're here, as much as I love ice cream, Oklahoma State has a new head coach, Sean. And I know we were kind of thinking from a timing perspective, maybe this might happen after Thanksgiving. Let's just put it that way. But it happens on a Tuesday. I'm intrigued by the timing of this. But I think once there's momentum that gets moving, there's not really much that you can do to hold it back anymore. But what was your first reaction to hearing that Eric Morris is the new head coach of Oklahoma State?
Well, I'm like you. It's the timing on a Tuesday. I mean, I'm happy for this because obviously with the amount of time that Chad Weiberg and the search firm and everyone else has had to identify candidates, narrow them down, talk with representatives, have the coaches do whatever they do so they can plausible deniability, saying, no, I haven't talked with the school, all of that kind of thing. But you've had enough time to gather the information. And fortunately for most of us, we had Eric Morris on a short list. You had a really good profile of him on the website, too, that you can still check out at newzone6.com. We had him there with Golish. It's funny that if what I think is actually correct, that maybe your two finalists came from the same conference, that also involves TU. But Eric Morris brings an exciting offensive style. You know, some people are going to look at it and say he's a Mike Leach disciple. He played at Texas Tech. He was one of those kind of scat back receivers, 5'7", that sort of thing. We'll get to that note you pulled up in a moment, which is just unbelievable. But I think that this can inject some quick new life into things if you get the right players. I think what this all comes down to now is, yes, he's proven he can do it at Incarnate Word. He's proven that he can do it at North Texas. Does he bring the skill guys who have been difference makers, quarterback Drew Mestamaker, running back, does he bring them with him? That gives you a leg up. And what does his recruiting group look like in the meantime before he can commit full time?
Here's a couple of things that I like about this hire. One, he's 40. Even though we did have a colleague earlier say, I thought he would be younger, which kind of stabbed me in the chest a little bit.
And if it did that to you, what do you think it did to me?
Thanks a lot, Raven, for that. But he's 40, but he's been a head coach for 7 years. Okay, so we're talking cutting the teeth in this era of college football from a variety of different programs that have had their own unique set of challenges from a money perspective. Incarnate Word. I don't think we need to really go in depth on that one. I think we kind of understand that. I have a better understanding of North Texas than I do Incarnate Word, but bouncing around to Washington State and at least being a part of maybe on the lower level of a Power 5 or Power 4 program within the Pac-12 before it imploded, to then moving to North Texas. And I can tell you from someone that has been at North Texas and has seen Eric Morris up close and in person and knows some of the financial challenges that they've had at UNT, what he did was take the model that he knows works, galvanized the entire athletic department, galvanized those donors that are at UNT, and said, we have to have a business model that works in this current landscape. And it didn't happen overnight. It's been 3 years is what he'll end up spending at North Texas. First year was kind of getting your feet underneath you, but about year 2 is when you really started to see kind of turn the corner a little bit, and now look at where they're at. They're ranked for the first time since 1959. Like, the level of success that he has right now, there's a legitimate possibility they're going to be in the college football playoff. I think they can beat Tulane. if the things happen the way that I think they will in the American over the next 2 weeks. But, John, having equity as far as a head coach in this version of college football, to me, is so instrumental because he's got the same groundwork to do at Oklahoma State that he did at North Texas. This is not, he's not walking into just add head coach. There's still a lot of work to be done behind the scenes.
Sure there is. And, the first thing is we asked Doug Meacham, the interim head coach at OSU, on Monday during his news conference. I asked him, what is the number one thing that whoever the new coach is has to get done, has to have success with here? And he talked immediately about players, getting the right kind of players, not just getting the most talent, but getting guys that fit and are willing to buy in. And, I think that Eric Morris has had enough experience with that. One is being a player at Texas Tech, and yes, it's a different landscape now with players getting paid and everything, but he's been in locker rooms as a player. He understands how things need to work. And, Lubbock and Stillwater, as much as they want to do this, there are some similarities in terms of football programs and putting it together. Now, okay, you could say, well, they've got their big money guy over there. What is it going to look like at OSU? I do think that there will be, if it isn't already out there, I think there will be a level of excitement among donors, and we've always heard the rumors about some big money potential donors have been sitting on their hands until a change was made. Now we're going to find out, one, if that rumor is true, and two, exactly what it's going to look like moving forward. But I think he comes into it, as you said, with the different backgrounds and the different ways that he had to put together things to have success, that I think he that's something that he has. One of their longtime radio voices, I won't mention his name now because he had to pump the brakes on doing a podcast with us, but the way he described Morris was, he strikes you as a good old boy, but you find out really quick he knows what he's doing. And I'm paraphrasing what he said, but that's also a plus to the willingness and the understanding at his advanced age of 40 to embrace the NIL, embrace all the things that go along with that. I think is going to be another key.
And if he gets that all in place, and judging off of his past, think that he will, you're in for a treat as an Oklahoma State fan. Witnessing this offense in person, which I did, it was inspiring at times, and watching what they're able to do. You're seeing it now with the quarterback, running back combination they have. They had a wide receiver against Rice that caught 295 yards in receiving yards this past week. So they light it up. They've had 6 games over 50 points so far this year, and this is not just a, hey, 1 year situation. They've been good offensively since he's been there from day one. And it's been of my opinion that we've kind of needed an offensive revolution in Stillwater for the last couple of years. You're getting that, in my opinion, instantly with this hire. It's just year one. I don't know. We'll see. I think you can turn a roster quickly now in college football. But long term, which is what you make this hire for, I think that they are going to be elite offensively in the Big 12 Conference. Your point is well taken. This first year, we don't know because there is a lot of areas that you need quality and then quality depth too. And how much can you get that done? And I'm not going to knock him for or OSU for allowing him to go ahead and coach North Texas. They've earned that right, and fine, that's fine. As long as you've got that back channel stuff in place in terms of getting some players in. And if you think that Eric Morris hasn't already either shown Chad Weiberg a list of potential guys or has said, here's how I'm going to handle the recruiting part, then you're really not up to speed in terms of how these things work in this day and age. So if you can do that, I think the Big 12 is interesting and maybe a little different than other leagues. Maybe not so much from the ACC, but the Big 12, we've already seen. They got rid of the preseason poll. Yeah.
Arizona State went from nothing to the league champion. You're seeing Texas Tech, again, it's very money-driven, but there's a plan behind it. Texas Tech right now and BYU are the 2 best teams in the league. Texas Tech is the highest-ranked team in the CFP in terms of the Big 12. the opportunity for a faster turnaround is there in this league.
It's time to enjoy the sweet taste of Braums Strawberry Shortcake Sundae. Our creamy vanilla ice cream is nestled on top of Braums fresh-baked golden bundt cakes, with spoonfuls of delicious strawberry topping all around, complete with fluffy whipped cream and a cherry, to create the perfect flavor combination. Strawberry goodness is waiting for you at Braums.
It was also a coveted job. You know this from the people that you've talked to. A couple of individuals that I spoke with had all said the same thing, that like agents were like informing head coaches, like you can go and you can win there. And the word amongst the agent community was they're going to have their ducks in a row when it comes to the business side of this. So maybe that speaks to your point earlier about the money people being in the right positions at the right time. What I really like about this is that Chad Weiberg, through the help of Turnkey, identified a candidate. And whether most searches, in my opinion, are an AD has a guy and then it's his job to convince everyone else that this is the guy. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's the scenario here, but let's just be honest for a moment. Oklahoma State had an opening early. They identified their guy, and in one of the craziest hiring cycles in college football, are one of the first major splashes outside of Virginia Tech to go and get their guy. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of positive in that, of saying that Weiberg identified the guy and went out and got him, who was also coveted by other programs that you're going head-to-head against in this search.
I will say this, we, the radio crew, we hadn't been on the team charter very often this season, just kind of the way some things worked out. But we were on the charter to go to UCF in Orlando and back. And Chad Weiberg had been in Columbia, Missouri to watch the men's cross-country team win the national championship earlier on Saturday, took a private flight down to Orlando, and so he was on the return flight after the game. And it's easy now to look back on this, but any sort of conversation, the first thing was he's very polite and very tight-lipped about this stuff, and mm-hmm. he's been that way not just with this search but with a bunch of other ones. But I was sitting a row kind of behind and across the aisle, and I was struck by, he just looked comfortable. And he didn't want the football team to lose. It's not that.
Yeah.
They played great and just lost in the last minute. But he looked comfortable. He looked especially comfortable for a guy who's been through heart surgery not that long ago, too. So in that way, I thought, I don't get the sense that this is going to drag on very much longer. But I was still surprised by the announcement today.
But he had a time frame, John, and he met that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, he was early on that, mm-hmm. because the comment was early on in this, we want to have it almost like the Sunday after the season ends. So he's within the time frame, and now you kind of separate yourself from all the other nonsense in the programs that are still out there on the hunt, and you can actually get back down to business, which behind the scenes is probably the most important part, with getting the money right for when he does walk into the door and puts on the Oklahoma State quarter zip, because that's what you should wear. By the way, he did not have on North Texas gear today.
You pointed that out
in his press conference at all. He had on a hoodie that said "Truth," period, which is ironic now, and then a random hat. I thought that was weird, yeah. But the minute that he puts on the Oklahoma State quarter zip is when the real work starts happening. But behind the scenes now, there's a lot of important things that are happening, even if he's coaching into the playoff.
Sure, and he's going to have people in place. He's going to have people that he trusts too.
This is just me, and some people may not agree with this, but I think it's a bonus if he makes it into the playoff for Oklahoma State. And I know you want him to get here and start working right away. There's equity, though, in your new head coach coaching in a playoff. There's a lot of eyeballs on him, and you can send out a ton of social media graphics and let recruits know, hey, look at what this guy was able to do here. We know we're better. Imagine what the possibilities are. I don't view that as a negative if he stays with him for a few extra weeks.
No, not at all. I mean, you and I joked earlier that, hey, you announced it before. I mean, listen, you're going to beat Temple. I mean, that would be a real shock if Temple were to upset North Texas.
Correct.
Now you could say, well, this changes things and maybe the focus for the players, but the players know what's in front of them too, and they want to go ahead and win. North Texas, that is. But what did Mike Gundy always used to talk about when you'd go to bowl games? You'd go to the Fiesta Bowl, and we have a logo too after they beat Notre Dame. It's the same sort of thing. It's just he's not wearing orange just yet.
Yeah.
And the other interesting part about this is we anticipate Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, likely Monday or Tuesday for the introductory news conference, but you're also working with his schedule in terms of if they beat Temple and they make the American Conference Championship game.
They could host as well, by the way.
They could host, and that's a week from Friday. So they haven't made an announcement yet. Maybe they do before we post this. I doubt it, but as to which day it's going to be, because you're working together with him to say, okay, listen, we can do this. It's already out there. You're our guy. Let's figure out the best time for both of us.
And Oklahoma State fans could show up and take their shirts off and spin them above their head there in Denton during a potential playoff game, or at least in the American Championship game. More than likely, Tulane. I don't think Charlotte's going to beat Tulane. That's who they play, and it would match those two because North Texas has a head-to-head win over Navy. But, hey, stranger things have happened. But initial thought, I love the hire, and I had someone that is in the game, and we had this back and forth about Golish compared to Morris, and their last comment was, I would much rather have Morris than Golish. Now, take that for whatever. But this person lives in college athletics, so I've always thought very highly of Eric Morris and knew that it was just a matter of time before he got potential, and now we get to keep track of him even closer.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, and this would be a good time for us to get it back around the circular thing in the world in college football, where he's 40 years old, and when you talk OSU football, it's I'm a man, I'm 40, Mike Gundy. Well, you found it. Morris played in the game.
I saw this stat on Twitter, and it was X, sorry, Elon. 2 catches for 16 yards. Eric Morris, the new head coach at Oklahoma State, played in the I'm a man, I'm 40 game. How crazy is that?
That's just... Well, is that how you know maybe you got the right guy? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. And then played in the famous game that happened in Norman the next year in the jump around game when Texas Tech was number 2 in the country. But one other thing before I forget this, all you got to say is Pat Mahomes, Cam Ward.
I'm glad you went there. Yeah.
Right on down the list. This guy is
Baker
a
Mayfield.
quarterback whisperer. That's what he's known for. John Mateer as well, spent some time with him. So in today's high-powered offensive world of college football, man, you got one that's got some skin in the game when it comes to quarterbacks.
And he's got a redshirt freshman in Drew Messemaker. And I don't want to get too far ahead of this. Because all I'm going to say about it is he's had a tremendous season. You mentioned Charlotte. What did he throw for?
605 or 8 yards.
Yeah, and sometimes those Texas natives know how to mine the world of Texas high school quarterbacks who tend to be a little cut above most.
Thank you for watching this Oklahoma Zone digital studio stream. Stay with News on 6 online and on television anytime for the latest news, weather, and sports.